If I may quote the playwright Christopher Marlowe for a moment, "Go shorty, it's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday." Let's get started. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Succession Season 3, Episode 7, Too Much Birthday Together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. First of all, I love this title, Too Much Birthday. I love it. You know why I love it? Because it reminds me of the Berenstain Bears books that I would devour as a kid. It just sounds like one of those titles. The whole time I kept expecting the episode to end with Mama Bear showing up and schooling everybody on the dangers of overindulgence. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Mama did not show up. Nobody learned anything. And instead, we get one of the saddest, most crushing depictions of the pure, unadulterated brokenness that is the Roy siblings. One thing I love about Season 3 is that we get a lot more of the four siblings together, because you don't get a whole lot of that in Seasons 1 and 2. But I feel like, given the nature of the show and given the nature of everybody's ambitions, it just makes sense for them to work as a team, for lack of a better term, a bit more often. So imagine my delight when not one, not two, but all three of Kendall's siblings show up to his party, and we've got to take a moment to appreciate this party. Like any good multi-billionaire, Kendall Roy decided to throw the tackiest birthday party on the face of the earth, starting with walking through a pink balloonish tunnel and emerging through a pair of giant balloon legs and saying, "You have just been born into the world of Kendall Roy," to having a VIP area designed to look just like his childhood treehouse, to a tunnel of compliments where these poor people are paid to just stick their heads through a trellis and compliment you as you walk by, culminating, or rather almost culminating, in a spectacular display in which Kendall Roy came this close to sticking himself up in a harness, crucifying himself on a giant cross while singing "Honesty" by Billy Joel as a way to snap at his father. The sheer amount of insecurity on display just in the design of this party are staggering and hilarious, and Sigmund Freud would have a field day at this place. He would never leave. I think he would die. He would be that happy there. And being a bottle-ish episode, most of it took place at this hilarious party, which means we got a whole lot of it, but we also got a whole lot less than we usually do of the Waystar offices, and we only have one scene with Jerry and Logan and Frank and Carl. But that's okay, because I feel like we needed this time to sit and stew with the siblings. And I think stew is an appropriate word here, because it is bubbling. This is getting hotter and hotter, and something's gonna give. And it almost gave at the end of Too Much Birthday. One of the guests invited to this prestigious event is Alexander Skarsgård's character, who is the CEO of the Gojo app that Kendall has been trying to integrate with Waystar for some time now, and you can tell that this guy is not interested really in talking to Kendall, but the second Roman steps up and swoops in on Kendall's idea and tries to woo Gojo over to their side of the Waystar fence, the guy's on board. So much so that they even adjourn to the bathroom together for some mild-mannered misadventure as they pee on Roman's phone, because billionaires, wasting resources since the Industrial Revolution. The fact that the siblings showed up more to just sort of do some recon and some spying and hopefully get Gojo on their side than to actually wish Kendall a happy birthday shows what a bad crop of apples everybody is. I'm not saying I feel sorry for Kendall, because he was undoubtedly cruel to all of them back in episode 2, but I can't help but call to mind the Kendall of season 2, the broken, hollow Kendall of season 2, and how he was being bullied by his siblings because they all just bully each other. That's what they do. And he just had no willpower left in him. He couldn't even fight back and defend himself. So he just kind of nodded and took the abuse and just carried on shuffling forward through the mess of his life. And that Kendall popped up again at the end of this episode when he saw just how little his siblings actually cared about him. It's all on display but it takes him a long time to see it because billionaires refusing to acknowledge the truth since the Industrial Revolution. And it is all spelled out for him when the siblings comment, wow, there's a lot of people at this party. Pretty much everybody except your wife, your children, and your friends, because you don't have any friends. Your wife doesn't really want to be here, and when she does show up, it's just to deliver a present and leave. And your children didn't show up because I guess they don't want to be at a party where people are selling cocaine in a magic VIP treehouse that you need a rainbow pass to get into. Kendall really is utterly alone. Even his assistants, people like Comfrey, people like Jess, they listen to what he says, they do their jobs, but they are not happy. And we can see it on their faces. We can see they're not happy. And we even get to a point where Comfrey finally admits she's not happy. More on that later. So all these folks show up to this party, including Alexander Skarsgård, but he just shows up just because, and he doesn't even really give Kendall the time of day. And then along come Kendall's siblings, and they are just as unhappy to see him. The only person really there for Kendall is his girlfriend, and she is the one who escorts him home when he has had enough. And we end on him wrapped up in his nostalgic A-Team blanket, curled up in her lap, broken and hollow once again. What made the end of this episode particularly sad for me is I kept thinking back to that moment in season 2 where Logan was freaking out after a bad press conference and Roman made one flippant remark, so Logan clocked him across the mouth. Obviously everybody freaked out, but the first and I think only person to rush between them and come to Roman's rescue was Kendall. It was the one moment last season where we saw some of that fire burn back up in Kendall Roy, and we remembered, yeah, this guy is still alive, even though you couldn't tell by looking at him. And he ran between them and said, "Don't you hit him." And he protected Roman the way a big brother protects a little brother. It was a very beautiful moment, one of my favorite moments of the series. So I kept calling back to that as we come to this point in the party where Roman is being the most vicious that he has ever been, to the point where Kendall looks ready to clock him, but he doesn't. But when he turns around, Roman kind of pushes him to the ground, and it looks like a fight might ensue. It's sad, man. It is sad that such a turn of the tide has happened between these brothers, and I don't know if they will ever reconcile. The best line of the episode for me comes from Roman as he is hurling insults at everybody in the 11th hour, and it's when he is making fun of Siobhan, who has decided to slip her way onto the dance floor, take off her heels, and just dance like nobody's watching. You would think that would mean she's having a good time. No, she's just dancing her frustrations away because these are sad people who can't really have good times. And Roman's quote comes later when he's commenting on what everybody has seen, and he calls it, quote, the dance of the sugar plum failure. Why are these writers so clever? It's not fair. So with all of this being said, you can understand why I am so happy to see what has gone on in the life of Cousin Greg. Remember a couple episodes back, I mentioned that it looks like Greg has a thing for Comfrey. And it kind of struck me because this is not the kind of show where relationships happen. This is not the kind of show where somebody has a thing for somebody else and they go out on a date. It's the kind of show where a sad person flaunts their money and says, hey, why don't you come sleep with me? I have money. And that's the extent of the romance you get on Succession. I'm not complaining, but it was such a nice little breath of fresh air in an episode so filled with sadness and hatred and broken people, for somebody like Greg come up to Comfrey after being told by several of his so-called friends that she's out of his league, and he just straight up says, look, I was about to ask you out for a drink before you told me you'd be running a smear campaign against me, and then I told Kendall about it, and he said, nah, don't do it, church and state and all that. And isn't it just the straw that breaks the camel's back where Comfrey says, you know what, I have had just about enough of Kendall Roy. And she acquiesces and she's like, yes, I will go have a drink with you, Greg. And I was just like, whoa, why is this making me so happy? I have never shipped TV couples in my life, and I never intended to. Have I broken that vow? Am I shipping Greg and Comfrey right now? Is that what I'm doing? I don't know, but I hope their date goes well. Is that what shipping is? If Succession's history is any indication, the date probably will not go well. For the moment, it was a ray of sunshine on an otherwise gloomy day. And there are only 2 episodes left, so hopefully within the coming weeks we will see what becomes of the Greg and Comfrey relationship, or as I have now decided to call it, Grumfrey. You're welcome. How the great divide of the Roys is mended, if it even is, or which side ends up winning out. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to guess which one is doing better. And will Kendall ever find the birthday present his kids made him? I hope so, because I feel so bad for those children. And that was Succession Too Much Birthday. That was Thumped Together. And this was Andrew Fantasia. And that was very, very kind to sit through this whole video. Thanks for watching. I will see you all here next week. And until then, adios.